The fire does not create the gold, it just reveals it. Pressure doesn't create value, it exposes what's already valuable. And I think many of us have been taught the opposite, that we're made by our hardest experiences, that suffering somehow gives us worth. Somehow the wound is the most important thing about us. But what if that isn't true? What if the wound is real and still not the whole story? Welcome to Incandescent Voltage, Luminous Being. My name is Tiffany, and I have been a functional medicine board certified health coach since 2017. Everything shared on this channel is for educational and reflective purposes only. This is not medical advice. So I want to encourage you that you are the keeper of your own current and to please seek medical or mental health support whenever needed. Let's begin. Somewhere along the way, we change the meaning of suffering. Something in our past once described the experiences that nearly shattered a life, and then somehow it expanded to include almost every form of discomfort, disappointment, heartbreak, and overwhelm. And what was the result? Many people have quietly come to believe that what happened to them became who they are. Somehow the story was finished. The nervous system they inherited was permanent. The patterns they learned were destiny, and that healing was possible for other people, but maybe not for them. And maybe most painfully of all, that the wound was the most important thing about them. But what if that isn't true? Think about this for a minute. What happens if your anxiety, your people pleasing, your perfectionism, your emotional eating, your hypervigilance, your exhaustion, or your shutdown responses are not evidence that you're broken? What if they're evidence that your body adapted brilliantly to circumstances? Circumstances it was never designed to carry all alone. Because the body is always trying to protect life. The nervous system learns, it adapts, it develops strategy, and it builds armor. And sometimes those strategies remain long after the danger has passed. But here's the distinction I want you to sit with today. Adaptation is not identity. Survival is not identity. And a coping mechanism is not identity. The wound may shape the landscape, but it does not define the traveler. And that distinction changes everything. Because healing is not about becoming someone new. Healing isn't about manufacturing worthiness or fixing a defective self. Healing is a slow and tender process of remembering, uncovering, and returning. You are not building yourself from scratch. You're not building yourself at all. What you're doing with healing is remembering yourself. You are excavating what has always been there beneath the protective layers. And what's hidden beneath those layers? Your body's wisdom and intuition and creativity, your capacity for joy, your ability to receive without guilt and rest without guilt, the part of you that existed before survival became your full-time job. And this is why healing can feel less like construction and more like archaeology. You're not creating gold. You're brushing away the sediment that has concealed it. The fire doesn't create the gold, it reveals it. Pressure doesn't create value, it exposes what's already valuable. And the same is true for you. The challenges you've lived through may have revealed strengths you never knew you possessed. But those strengths were not manufactured by suffering. They were uncovered through it. And this is the heart. Let's call this luminous resilience, because a cracked filament can still glow. Think about a light bulb, and I want you to get a picture in your mind of the filament that's cracked a little bit. And there are times the current can still work even with the cracked filament. And it's not because the damage made it worthy, it's because the ability for the light has been there all along. The body remembers survival, the soul remembers wholeness. And healing, at its most honest, is the slow work of letting the soul's memory begin to surface again. This is not toxic positivity. This is not a suggestion that your experiences were not real because they were so real, or that your pain wasn't significant because it was, or that damage can simply be wished away like a magic wand from a fairy godmother. Your wound is real. And what I want to invite you to question today is whether your wound is the most defining thing about you. Because many of us have been so immersed in the language of what happened that we have kind of stopped being able to imagine who we are beyond it. We introduce ourselves through our diagnoses. We organize our identity around our history. We treat our nervous system patterns as personality rather than adaptive strategies that made sense in the context. And somewhere in that process, our original self, the one who existed before the wound, gets buried under so many layers of protection that we kind of forget it's still there. But it is still there. And remember, the current runs through the cracks. And I think that could be the invitation to stop organizing your identity around what happened to you. Stop introducing yourself through the language of your wounds. Stop treating your pain as the final destination, because the wound is part of the landscape you're moving through. It is not the destination. You are not your history. You are not your coping patterns. You are not your diagnosis. You are not the worst thing that has happened to you. You are the awareness that survived it, the wisdom that learned from it, the life that continues beyond it. Healing at the speed of safety is the art of uncovering what never left. And the gold was never created by fire. It was already there, just waiting to be revealed. Before we close, I want to let you know that tomorrow in the community tab, I'm going to be sharing some reflective questions, and you can do whatever you want with them. You can use them for journaling. If you would like to talk about those questions with a trusted therapist or counselor, you can do that. But I want to make sure that you have the availability to follow up on the topic today. So do what feels supportive to you. And just remember, with the questions I'll be sharing, there is no pressure to have immediate answers. Sit with them as long as you need to. And keep in mind, sometimes self-awareness begins simply by creating space for the questions themselves. Thank you for choosing to spend time here with me today, luminous being. If something in this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear your reflections in the comments. How did this information shift the way you view yourself, your body, or your current season of life? What expanded your self-awareness as you listened? And remember, these conversations are not about perfection. They're about learning to listen more honestly to ourselves with curiosity, compassion, and clarity. And if this episode supported you in some way, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need these words as well. And if you want to go deeper, I invite you to explore my free 5-day email course linked below. This is where ancient wisdom meets modern science to support your own health, nervous system, and wellness journey. And until next time, may you continue healing at the speed of safety.